Hi. Are you all feeling good? Enough energy left? Because I realize I'm standing between you and the break. Feel free to get up and stretch a little bit. My colleague Sarah, who's in the room, somewhere there, knows how much I like to talk about myself, so having somebody else do that on my behalf is a little unnerving for me. But thanks anyway. It's much appreciated. I am indeed at PepsiCo and responsible for insights and analytics. And I guess most of you know PepsiCo. If not, please raise your hand, and I'll spend the next half hour explaining what it is we do. But we have a broad portfolio of snacks, beverages, and nutrition that we sell in almost, over 200 countries worldwide. We have more than 1 billion connections with consumers in all these different places in the world. And enabling all these brand teams and marketing teams to do the right innovation, activation, communication, and what have you, are about 525 insights and analytics people who are spread all over the world in little pockets of some larger teams, some smaller teams, but literally spread all over the world. My role was created to turn all that capability and all that resource into one global function. So my talk to you right now is not about what we do, it's about how we do it. Or actually, probably more precise, how we're gonna be doing it. Okay? I've got about 20 slides. I'm gonna try and go through them really fast so we have some time for questions left. Because typically, if I talk about this stuff, there are questions, I find. So, I mean, I don't have to elaborate too much to this audience that building brands has become more challenging and complex, right? I think when I'm 52 next month, so when I started my career and when I started as a marketeer, it was a bit like marketing was a bit of like a game of bowling. Kind of, you knew what you had to do, you could train for it, and if you threw the ball out in the right way and with the right pitch or whatever bowlers that call it, you would score. I think over the last 2.5 decades that the game has really changed significantly. And I don't know which of you know the game PepsiCo, that's in Tokyo. A lot of people play that. It's it's a Japanese game. You have zero control over what's happening, basically. And that's how marketing feels to a lot of us these days, and certainly sometimes to me. So there's a lot of change to doing marketing. There's obviously a lot of change to the media landscape. And there's a lot of change to the retail landscape. And none of this needs a lot of elaboration. But again, please raise your hand if you want me to elaborate on this, but I guess it's self-explanatory. There's not a lot of change to doing insights work. If I look at how market research was roughly done when I started my career at Unilever versus today, it's not essentially different. In fact, it's not essentially different today versus the times of Mad Men, from which this lovely picture is taken. So a lot has changed in the world around us. A lot has changed for the role of marketeers in their efforts to build brands. Not a lot has changed in the way market research is done. Sure, there's a lot of new tools. There's a lot of, let's say, often niche players that are doing things in different ways, but the fundamental tools are the same. And those 500 and something people that work in PepsiCo have, of course, have budgets, and we spend about 1/3 of our budgets on what I call evaluative type of research. Do you like this concept? Is this the right packaging? Should I do it at this price or sell it at that price? Where do you want to see this on the shelf? Et cetera, et cetera. Pretty fundamentally simple questions where we ask the consumer to give his or her feedback on a couple of options that we would have to innovate, to merchandise, or to advertise. So, looking at that, and here maybe one aspect of my background that wasn't mentioned is relevant. This is my first insights and analytics job. So I come at this job with, let's say, more an entrepreneurial mindset and general business mindset, I guess, than any other mindset. And I'm certainly not, quote unquote, married, either consciously or subconsciously, to any of the insights tools, ways of working, or partners. So in my and my leadership team's perspective, we need a pretty bold vision and clear plan to reinvent insights, because insights, the way it's done today, is really not a great fit in general, from our perspective, with the way the world looks. And simply automating what we do today to make it faster and or cheaper is not going to cut it. I think that would be great, right? But it's like faster horses, or you know, to quote Mr. Ford, or faster planes. It's still you still have to travel by plane, and sometimes it's just better to do a video conference. So it's not about faster and cheaper, although that's great. It's about faster and cheaper, but truly augmenting human intelligence and experience with the potential of technology. And to create faster, lower cost, and most importantly, better insights. In a way that leverages the full force and of the pretty significant scale that a company like PepsiCo has. So as an insights function, we said, okay, there's 8 capabilities that we think we should be great at. And across those capabilities, we want to build a standardized and digitized tools and insights platform. And that platform will basically consist of a lot of different tools: a concept testing tool, a pack testing tool, a price testing tool, a content testing tool. And there's actually a set of needs that are consistent across all those tools. And those needs, certainly if you look across tools, are not met, as far as we're concerned, in the current marketplace by the typical providers. First of all, the tools should be really human-centric, not relying on the, by now I dare to say, pretty old-fashioned reliance on just system 2 type of thinking, but they should be intuitive, and they should be cognizant of the fact that feeling is a form of thinking as well, right? They should be built for the social and digital world, right? So not over the phone, no clipboards, no ding-dong, it's the research agency, and no crazy long questionnaires on websites and what have you. The tools should be intuitive, flexible, and modular to adapt to a business reality. So I should be able to do a very fast, simple, and cheap early concept test and iteratively approve whatever it is we're doing. Because the world has moved on from a world where we said, hey, we're going to think, then we're going to test and perfection our thinking, and then we're going to act. Those days are over, at least in PepsiCo, and at least as far as I'm concerned. One of my favorite sayings is, it's time to start acting ourselves into new thinking instead of thinking ourselves into new action. And you can only act yourself into new thinking if you've got tools that can help you with that. We need to build a flywheel. Right now, if one of my colleagues in Manila does a concept test, the only person, there's 2 people that get smarter from that event. The person in Manila and our agency, right? PepsiCo is not getting smarter. So I want each and every time that we do a concept test or whatever test, I want PepsiCo to get smarter. So that over time, I can actually do meta-learning. And I can really build on experience, but in a mechanistic almost way, in a digitized way, not relying on individuals that happen to be sitting all over the world. I want to build a silo-busting data system. The question came up earlier when my colleague from Warby Parker did this great talk, and somebody asked, like, how do you deal with a company that is not born in the digital age, but that has a legacy of silos? Well, you know, I live in that world, and data is one thing that you need to solve for. It's a tough thing, but when you do it, the silos kind of melt away. And finally, it's got to be fast, cost-effective, and enabling iterative consumer input. I mentioned that already. So what I want to do is transform insights into something that makes the company smarter, more efficient, and better. Right? I'm not going to drain this slide, just to highlight a couple of things. Smarter. So I want to create superior tools, and if I can't get them, I'll make them. I want to be more efficient, so automating non-value-added tasks and unlock the significant cost reductions that we can find, but also unlock the phenomenal amount of resources that we have to do added value work. And I want to make insights better in terms of, I really want to turn insights into a function that plays a bigger role in delivering growth for the company. Unlocking the meta learning I talked about, repurposing the headcount to key new growth capabilities, etc. So we've decided to get here, we need to do things pretty drastically different and take a new path. And what we decided to do is to build a first, at least for PepsiCo the first, but I think the first across the board, digital global end-to-end insights platform. That's going to be a self-serviced digital hub. Think of a screen with apps, whether you're sitting in Kuala Lumpur or Shanghai or Johannesburg or Rio de Janeiro, doesn't matter. You're using the same digitized tools to do your insights work. All those tools are connected with an automated analytics engine that builds on the power of data science, but in a very leveraged and centralized way. The tool has a reporting and delivery suite, so there's no downloading Excel files into PowerPoint anymore and all that misery and the loss of time with that, which is just completely medieval, you know, if you do that. And it makes use of augmented intelligence. So you actually, because if you create a smart database or a database in a smart way, you can actually get smarter as a company. And you're building a competitive advantage instead of just doing a lot of research. And we have decided that there's no party out there that can do this for us, so we're going to do it. But we're not going to do it alone, because what we're going to do is we're going to basically disintermediate the typical research industry, and we're going to go and partner directly with a technology company. So it's a technology company that happens to be active in the insights world, but could be, strictly speaking, could also be active in other industries, but they're a technology company first. And with that technology company, we're going to partner, and we're going to build world-class products, building on the phenomenal expertise that we have in our company. We have a deep research expertise and knowledge of our particular business needs. We work with world-class agency partners across the board, whether it's in creative or whether it's in writing or whether it's in media, whatever. And we have some amazing academic partnerships, not in the least with Yale, but also with Ehrenberg, Bass, etc. So we can mobilize all the brain power we need to build the tools that we need. And we can partner with a technology firm that can help us really digitize and automate these tools in one global platform. So we're partnering with somebody who delivers a best-in-class digital platform with a world-class technology and that brings world-class data science to the party. And we're just going to do this together. And as a result of that, we're going to enable PepsiCo to build cumulative learning and increase the effectiveness of our innovation, brand building, and go-to-market year on year on year on year. And make it independent, or at least much more independent of people, and make it certainly much more independent from the usual suspects that have failed to innovate in this marketplace over the last couple of decades, despite all the changes that are happening. It's not that this has never happened before, right? It's, if you look at all these examples, and between us, I think we can come up with dozens more. There's a lot of industries that get disintermediated at this point. And I think the consumer, certainly speaking for myself, always ends up getting a better deal if this happens. And I really think it's time that somebody takes the lead in this. And I'm happy to say that we're going to do that. Now, we're not saying that we're not going to be needing any help. Because, of course, sometimes a self-service tool that sits on a digital platform is not enough. Sometimes you want somebody to come and help you work through the results, or even run the workshop with the marketing, the design, and the R&D team, or whatever it is, whatever you want help with. So why not create a new consulting model in that space as well? And in that consulting model, we may be working with let's say, what I referred to earlier as the usual suspects type of partners, right? Where we're saying, okay, whether it's with Niels or Kantar or IRI or whoever, come and work with us, but then in an Uber type of model. So I'd love to work with you when I need you. I'm not going to pay for all sorts of layers of management and thought leadership and expats who sit in Asia if I don't really need that. So we're deploying a digital platform accompanied with a new consulting model. And what this all leads to, at the end of the day, is that if you look at, schematically, if you look at what an average insights person at PepsiCo does today, she or he easily spends 90% of her or his time on what I would call doing the work. Right? So a test needs to be done. I'm from Insights, so I'm going to do the work. I got to agree a questionnaire, and I got to select a vendor, and I got to blah, blah, blah. You all know better than me, probably, what that work entails. Where the function has a lot of room for growth and impact is in the work before the work and the work after the work. And it's the work that you do before the work, i.e. asking the right questions, and it's in the work you do after the work, i.e. really working with your marketing, research, R&D or design partners on deploying what the outcome of an exploration or a test is and really making it applicable to the business and making it land in the business decision. It's the work before the work and the work after the work that is really where business partnership is forged, not in doing the work. A machine can do the work, and that doesn't have to be done by a human being. So through standardizing and digitizing tools and resources, we're actually going to pave the way for business partnership. Now, I've got 2 more slides. So far, I've really talked about digitizing the tools. But for those who have paid attention, on today's agenda, it says that my talk is about digitalizing the insights function. And digitalizing is a lot broader than just digitizing tools, right? If you digitalize a function, you're not only doing what's kind of outlined in red here, building that toolkit, digitized toolkit and intelligence platform, but you're also building specific capabilities. Beyond that, you're also working on your operational excellence and your organization, and you're working on your talent and enablers. And we're doing all that. And that's not for today to go in depth, but give me a call if you want to hear more. But As a summary of what digitalization looks like, I typically use this chart. So I apologize, I've been a consultant in my past, so I like these kind of models, right? But this is the model I tend to use when I talk about an operating model, which can be a function like insights in a company. An operating model consists of a couple of key components, building blocks. Of course, the talent with their skills, the processes, the tools, the hardwired organization, and then the leadership, the culture, and strategy as enablers. And if you're digitalizing a function, it's not only about digitizing the tools, but it's also about, for example, and importantly, really changing the org structure from a rigid Christmas tree that is folded around the silos that a company like PepsiCo inevitably will have, to a true global ecosystem where capability just sits where it happens to sit and reports to whomever has a lot of passion for it, and is leveraged optimally globally by the global leadership team that is just working from one very clear vision and through one very clear set of global priorities. So digitalization is in the case of insights and analytics in PepsiCo, it's about really going from an org chart to an ecosystem. It's about going from process-centric, projection-based type of people to human-centric and data-based type of talent. It's going from tools that are owned by vendors that are pretty local, because in Manila they use another concept test than in Buenos Aires, right? And that have a high level of manual work, to tools that are owned in terms of IP, that are global and that leverage machine learning and disintermediate the industry if needed. From processes that are static, slow and precise to processes that support agile, speedy and iterative ways of working. And finally, from leadership that is prescribing to leadership that is really truly building capability, so people can get on with it. So that's what digitalization is about. And I realize what I spent most time talking about is the digitization of the tools. So those were my slides.